Welcome to the portal to New Sovereign Earth. Join us as we collectively shift realities and shatter paradigms. I'm your host, Kalina Lux. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications on. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 10 of The Portal. I'm pretty excited today because this interview has been a long time coming in the works. I've been trying to get a hold of Mr. A from the Crypto Vigilante to do an interview now for, I feel like maybe almost close to, 6 months to a year. And because we're both so busy and in different time zones, it's been really hard to lock that down. And finally, we were just like, yep, we got a window, let's do it. And I'm saying this while it is both thunderstorming for me, so hopefully we'll have no problems today. Mr. A, most of you guys already know him, and he really doesn't need that much of an introduction, but if you're coming from the Temple side or from other places, a brief introduction onto Mr. A. He is a old school, long-term crypto analyst. He's been doing this since before the age of Bitcoin, or maybe something similar to that. And I'm not exactly even sure what that all entails, but I do know that this man is fiercely good at charting. His track record and his calls have been accurate for a long time. I hear lots of reports from the community that he's helped them out with calls and just predictions on the macro level as well. Mr. A is also the owner of 2 beautiful NFT collections on DERO NFTs and a proponent of liberty, freedoms, and privacy. Mr. A, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today. Is there anything that I've missed in your intro?
Hi, Kalina. Yeah, thank you for having me. It's, like you said, been long coming. It's good to finally sit down and have a chat. And I think introduction was pretty bang on. I can clarify some points as we move along. And I think I'm ready to just dive deeper into DERO. I mean, I do videos for TCV, 3 to 4 times a week. So I'm cranking out, almost 60 to 90 minutes of content in video every week. So it's good to actually step off of that and do a more DERO focused video, which I've done a few times. I've done reports just for TCV members, and now it's good to actually do a public one. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, it's essential. I really enjoyed your video. I'd actually never seen any of your work until that last video you did, the public one with Raf. Even though I'm a TCV subscriber, I should probably study more. But yeah, I was very impressed with your, how you broke down the trajectory. And so I would love to maybe learn a little bit more about your history and how did you even get into, how were you already charting things at the inception of Bitcoin, and how did that come about for you?
So I'll go back to the very beginning. I had a roommate who was a hardcore cryptography privacy proponent. And he got into Bitcoin really early. I'm talking shortly after launch early. And he was mining it. And I was in my own little world at that time. We were roommates, but I was in music mode, doing my thing. And at one point, at the very beginning, when it finally started getting priced, it wasn't even priced at the beginning. It was more of a collectible than anything, a digital collectible. So he offered me a 5-figure amount of Bitcoin for $200. And I was like, nah, I don't want that. That's bullshit. I don't want it. I'm not going to spend $200 on that. And so he forced me to take an amount of it in return for a breakfast that I bought him. And then when I opened the wallet, I don't know, half a year later or something, I saw the breakfast had multiplied by 1,000-fold or something like that. And I was like, okay, well, now this is serious stuff. I should probably get more serious about this. And that's when I went, call it balls deep, and started mining and charting, etc.
Awesome. Okay. So that clarifies that you didn't come from the world of stocks. You learned your skills specifically in crypto for crypto.
Yes, I learned charting in crypto, and I've expanded those skills into traditional markets to measure them as well. Because sometimes there's correlations, sometimes there isn't. But I've learned all charting on crypto, which is the more wild of the two sides of charting.
Yeah, that's really unique. I felt like I was almost positive that if in order to be that good as you are, that you were having to start with stocks or something, but that's actually really inspiring. So then you started charting then, and after you saw like the your breakfast had multiplied, did you then start discovering and getting into other cryptos, or what was your path from there?
Mostly Bitcoin only for the beginning, all the way up until, well, let me go back a bit. There was a service called Bull Bear Analytics. You may have heard of it. It was the old school analytics server that all the old school Bitcoiners subscribed to. And that was run by a guy named S3052. Nobody knows who he really is, obviously, it's just a code. And started subscribing to that. And that was my entry into charting. After I saw his charts, I'm like, I have to start doing my own charts. And then when service expanded, Mr. W was also an analyst there. And I joined the team first as a subscriber, and then hanging out in chat rooms, every day, watching the Bitcoin chart for years and years and years. You end up getting a feel for what it's doing. You live and breathe it, and you learn new methods and start applying them, and I started building my own way of charting and analyzing, but always having Mr. W and the rest of the group on the chat room to back and forth with and learn. So yeah, most of my learning was done by interacting with those characters.
So I have heard from my friends that are very much into trading that they've discovered that Bitcoin now follows like the traditional stock market. Is that the case? And if so, has it always been like that, or was there a turning point?
Bitcoin does not follow the stock market. I don't like to do correlations very much in my charting. I actually like to look at charts individually. And in my charting journey, I started very much by, learning how to chart pricing and targets and things like that, which is actually, prices are really easy. You can predict a price like really easily overall, whether it's going up or down. That's not the issue. The biggest issue is time. And the deeper I got into my charting journey, I started looking for ways to and look for cycles and cycles within cycles and cycles within cycles. And we all know about the Bitcoin 4-year cycle. And Bitcoin, as we know, just finished its bear market bottom. So that was the 4-year cycle bottom, and it began a new bull trend, which will last 3 years plus another year of bear market afterwards. And what happens is over the past year, as stocks are going down, Bitcoin is also in its 1 year of decline of its 4-year cycle. So suddenly everyone's like, well, yeah, Bitcoin stocks are correlated, going down at the same time. But since then, Bitcoin is up, I don't even know, 60, 70% off the bottom. But stocks are not exactly 60% off their bottom and look poised to go down probably later this year. So I think that correlation, now that the Bitcoin bear market is over, will probably continue to decorrelate as time progresses and it gets deeper in its own 4-year cycle.
So as you're talking, I'm staring at the sacred geometry in your NFT that you made here. And I'm wondering, given like you've got a really broad knowledge of geometry, sacred geometry and whatnot, and the I Ching, and do you see any fractality to the cycles, like the 4-year cycles, or like your charting? Do you use any of those kinds of sacred geometry patterns in your charting?
Yeah, absolutely. The Fibonacci extension tool is like one of the first things you use for predicting price extensions. So it's like built right into it. So that's one of the major ones. And then another thing that I do, for example, is looking at Fibonacci timing. So you look at a moving average and you create a bunch of moving averages using Fibonacci numbers. And I call them Fibonacci EMA, exponential moving averages. And then that's part of the geometry of the moving average as a measure of the price versus time. And I can even demonstrate that on a chart if you want to see one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would love that. And let's just maybe before we switch over to charting, because I do want to get into that like extensive, can you tell us a little bit about like how and when was that golden moment that you found out about DERO, and like what was your first impression of it, and like where do you stand now in regards to DERO? I think I know the answer, but I just want to hear it from you.
Okay, I'm going to compare it to my first privacy coin, which is Monero, which I was introduced to it by, again, BBA with Mr. W, and Mr. X was also a part of the group back then, and he was a pretty big Monero proponent, and he essentially, was telling us about it back at 5 cents. And when I watched, and I was pretty balls deep in that as well early on, and that gave me my first experience with a privacy coin. It looked like a really solid project, and I also watch it peak out along with the 2017 ICO madness. And it kind of lingers since then. So that's been my experience with Monero. So I've watched all the phases with it. And with DERO, I was introduced to it at the Dollar Vigilante when I joined. I knew it was still an early project that was mostly in a test net mode up until last year when we finally went Stargate. And I didn't go too hard on it because I wanted to see the proof of the pudding before I went hard on it. And then once we went Stargate and I actually saw things getting built on it, I was like, okay, now it's time to go get really serious about this. And as the bear market in crypto progressed along with Bitcoin, that was the time to really enter DERO at the lows. It's about 350 or so. And that's when I got really serious about it. Now, aside from that experience, the vibe of DERO right now, this current price of, let's call it between $4 and $6, is very, very similar to the vibe of Monero back at $5, where we didn't really have a GUI that was fully functional back then. And DERO's got an alpha GUI in the form of Ngram right now, but it's not really widespread. There was no mobile wallets. There was a small niche of people who were serious about Monero, but it wasn't really widespread, very much like DERO is right now in the greater scheme of things. It's not something big. And the way I'm seeing it progress is very similar. And it makes me happy to see it be like that, because that's the real key to make something grow well is to do it the way Monero did, and to see DERO doing the same way is a really good thing.
And so you're saying that it's correlated and in a similar way, that the same price that DERO and Monero, when they were like roughly around $5-6, they had kind of a similar progression or evolution, like not a real functioning wallet yet, like not like a real super fancy decked out wallet, but just enough of it with the community that's like die hard and super passionate, kind of like that.
Yeah, not only technicals and technologically, but also the vibe, like the vibration of it is very similar. And I think that sets it up for, a nice move in the way Monero had, where I think the real trigger for it was when there was a release of a darknet market that started using it, and it went from, $5 to $100, like in a matter of like 3 weeks.
Wow.
And I think DERO is just primed to have one of those events where something happens that triggers the usage and the hype, and suddenly everybody tries to get into the entrance door at the same time, and it makes price go up, 20, 30, 100x or something like that.
And so the vibe, can you describe the vibe that you observe, like within the community that you're speaking about?
The vibe is seriously privacy conscious, which is a very small subset of overall crypto, which is funny because crypto is supposed to be private, but it's in the name, but it's not hidden.
Right.
So very serious, but at the same time, actually, there was a bit less harsh than Monero was in the early days. In the early days, there was some serious harshness. It's like, okay, we're really hardcore, and we don't fuck around. And they seem to be more open to other sections of the community entering it. For example, someone like you entering Monero early on was much less likely than with DERO. It was not very, female friendly back then.
Yeah.
Now crypto is a lot more female friendly.
DERO was a rough one too. Like my first, I don't know, maybe 3 months up until I made a tutorial where I actually put my voice out there, where they were like, okay, she's not some dude in India pretending to be a woman. Up until that point, everybody was kind of like, what's your deal, dude? Stop pretending to be a chick. And I was like, you know what I mean? And I came from such a cushiony world, like, in the world of spirituality and like consciousness and all the new agey stuff. Like everybody's so extra gushy and so extra sweet and completely clueless around privacy, completely clueless. And I mean, I'm really lucky that a few of the savvy people in DERO were like, look, chick, like I'm only being nice to you because I follow some of the shows that you've been interviewed on and I know what you're about. So I'm going to help you out, but like, you got to drop this, and this, and you got to study. And I feel like I've described it before. DERO community almost makes you feel like you have to solve a proof of work as an individual, right? Like we have to, in order to like even have any kind of whatever in DERO, we have to solve a proof of work. And usually that's in, are you willing to study and put in the research to even have a wallet? Because, yeah, that's challenging. I kind of like this phase that we're in. It's like, I don't want to say exclusive, but it's like it vets out a certain amount. Like it's very vibrationally pure, right? Because people they have to be a little bit smart to really be involved in DERO at this point, I feel like.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, even to generate a new wallet, it's a proof of work process.
Yeah.
It's not like other coins. Like, here's a wallet, it's done. It's like, no, actually, like, let it sit there, and like it's gonna proof of work itself into a brand new address until you actually get it.
Yeah.
So you have to be patient. Nothing happens instantaneously, and I think that patience will pay off with DERO for those that are getting in right now, especially over the past 6 months. They're going to be well rewarded for their patience in 12 to 24 months, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I am now curious, like you gave us a little intro on the interview with TCV about the charting trajectory in DERO, and I'm still kind of new to all that. I got lucky with a few trades in my early crypto days, but like I don't understand it by any means. Could you tell us, for the layperson, why would somebody be interested outside of the financial aspects? Why is privacy coins, and specifically DERO, important to like the normal Joe Schmo on the road that might be particularly spiritual or into natural law and anarchy? Why is DERO so pivotal, in your opinion?
So let's compare it to the open world first. We have Bitcoin and Monero. They're the two major coins that do what they need to do to be money. So, solid, store value, long term, and you don't only care that Bitcoin is a thing to hold. And, so far, it outperforms most things in long term. You look at the all-time chart of Bitcoin, no coin has outperformed it overall. It may outperform it in phases, but when you look at the trajectory long term, it remains the gold standard, the tide that lifts all other boats in the ocean. And Monero has been the private form of money for that, which outperformed Bitcoin really well as a store of value for it's the start of its life. And then when I mentioned that, that's a dark market event where it popped, very quickly, explosively in a short amount of time. And then we had 2017 ICO madness. It actually went too far, too fast, and it's been suffering since then. Now, the other side of the coin is that we have Ethereum and DERO. And Ethereum has been the open network where most things happen and there's no privacy whatsoever. It's also sluggish and kind of poor technology overall. A meme coin madness over the past couple of weeks says that it made transaction fees go up to $300 per transaction, which is ridiculous. So if you want to move $10 of USDT, you got to pay $300. That makes no sense to me. How something even stays up and running. So that's not the best technology. And DERO is completely new technology, which is a very key thing. And because of that, I think it's a hedge against other technologies. Because written from the ground up, it's not a fork of anything. So that's important. You can do applications on it, which you can't do anything else like you can do in Ethereum. So as a hedge against the insane world that we're in, and even possible, AI apocalypses that, let's say there's an AI apocalypse, the AI observing everything that we do, controlling everything we do, a homomorphically encrypted environment is probably the only place left to do anything without being observed and controlled by everything. So it's a hedge against, Terminator 2 kind of event if it was to happen, but also against everything else, CBDCs, government surveillance and everything else. And them seizing your money, etc. Now, the store of value part of DERO, right now we're buying at the lows. It's good. Okay, it's going to go up higher. That's good. How it will perform after that is going to be the real key, and that's the thing to be observing well. And that's where charting is going to come in. So you can actually, if you have to lock in your wealth into another environment and then rebuy DERO later, you should be able to do that. And I think that's been the fault with a lot of the privacy coin communities where they're just locked in. And they'll let something ride, 13,000%, and then it goes down 99%, and they're holding the whole way and say, oh, I still got my privacy, but what happened to all your wealth? I mean, I think the point of having wealth is to actually put it to use in real world things and not just watching a number grow in a wallet that could be high value in fiat or low value in fiat. It's just a number, but we need to actually put it to work. And putting it to work means taking profits. Taking profits and putting into real life things is not a sin. And we need to actually look at that and not to be too attached to being private 99% of the time and not doing anything other than be private. So that's what I think DERO is important and why charting is important. So we can actually take the steps to lock in some gains when the time comes to lock in some gains.
Awesome. So do you want to share your screen and kind of maybe show us some of the key points and just maybe do like a intro into what you were doing with Rafael's interview and maybe make it like a little bit simpler for people and then maybe make it complex at the end?
Okay.
And it's also just started raining, so I will turn my camera off to save on bandwidth.
Okay. So I'm assuming you can see this here?
Yep.
So this is the first thing I'm going to show. And this is the DERO to USDT chart on KuCoin. And if you look at the bottom here, it's a logarithmic chart. It's not linear, meaning that, the numbers go up on the right side exponentially, okay? So you can see here, $1, $2, $4, and then 6, 7, all the way up to 400 here. And the distance between 400 and 300 is very small compared to this between 1 to 4. So you see this is rising exponentially. And what I drew here is what we call a log growth channel. So you see the channel has a bottom, channel has a top, established by these bottoms that are made over here, this top that are made up here at $27, and then all the bottoms that are made down here. And in fact, I'm going to take away some of the stuff here so you can see it better. We got this point here, and we finally made this bottom. I think that is when I actually issued a call to all the subscribers that said, okay, the DERO bottom is in, it's time to be in. And after it really got up to this level here, about 575 and broke out, I said, okay, it's really time to be in now and buy any dips that we get if we get a chance. And I put this here, it's an estimate of what I thought DERO could do in the future. Doesn't mean that's going to happen that way, and it hasn't. You can see that, I've left it here for reference to see, what is it going to do? It's gone up to that level, which kind of met my expectation. And then it went down here. It's messing around with this moving average. And it's actually the 64 moving average. So tossing sacred numbers in there. It's messing around with the EMA 64 on the log scale. And it's in this area here, which I think is another likely bottom before I run up to this level. So very early in this trend over here. It's expected after this breakout that we test some level over here and then continue up. Now, the reason why the log channel is important is that I'm going to take us to Bitcoin for comparison. And Bitcoin I actually drew green lines that to extend it very far away and all the way to the beginning of Bitcoin. You can see where the channel was established, top, bottom, rise to the bottom for a while. There's another top, touches the bottom again, and then came up to here. And then we had the FTX scam and everything, which is the reason why I didn't touch the top. Made it onto the bottom. Now I'm kind of messing around with this bottom over here. And the expectation is as long as we remain in this channel, we can look for visits to the channel top when it happens. With exceptions, of course, when something messed up like FTX happened. I mean, that's, we didn't go all the way there. We're supposed to see $100,000, but we didn't. So I'm going to put it back to DERO. So that gives you an idea of why the channel is important for DERO. So there's my estimate. And I put a couple more things in here for everyone's review, which is here I put a red line at the target at the top of this estimate price. Now, when I say patience is rewarded, I mean the patience is rewarded really because the longer we spend on the channel at the lower levels, when we explode and touch the top, the higher it's going to be. So for touch attack, let's say DERO gets listed and you start using the dark market tomorrow, and suddenly everyone in dark markets wants DERO and they all buy it at once. It goes all the way to the top of the channel and touches up here at 140. It would be like if it touched the top of the channel today is 133 to 140. It will touch up here and then it will collapse and linger over God knows how long, because this is way too much, way too fast. We don't like to see that. We don't want to see DERO going to that kind of level overnight. It's not the healthiest thing. And you can see that a healthy growth looks like this. It takes a long time to get to the top, then it corrects down to the bottom healthily, rides along here, and then you're kind of hoping for a more controlled move to the top again, like it did before. So that's why I say patience is rewarded. The longer we wait, the higher prices we get and the more sustainable it is in the future to hold this bottom here and not collapse out of it. Which is what happens to most altcoins. They collapse out of the bottom and that's it. They just linger on for years. And Monero suffered from that. It's actually just trying to rebuild itself now after 5 years. So that's here. That's my guesstimate. But nobody trade this according to this guesstimate here. This is just an estimate. And what I'm looking for is for DERO to start rising towards, middle of the summer, over here, and then maybe take another dip, and then rise towards its halving, and hopefully get another all-time high halving, and keep pumping through it. And then after the halving, take a correction because there's going to be a lot of hype going into the halving. And after the correction is done, when all of crypto goes parabolic, Bitcoin being the main one that lifts everything, take us up to the top of the channel. And on the estimate here, I have top of the channel mid 2024 in July, which takes us to $446. That's mid next year. Let's say it takes until the end of next year, not next year, 24. That takes us to the end of 24. Then we can look at even $600, $700 on top of the channel. So again, that patience is rewarded by building a longer base and waiting for a higher space. So essentially, this is a review of the log channels and their importance in predicting price. And what's notable is that if we get up here, and you're a holder of DERO, that is the time to do stuff with it. That's the time, it's not a sin to take profits and, build things on your property or buy new real estate or nothing. That's the time to do things like that. And look to buy it when it gets back to the bottom of the channel again, because it will. This thing is like the tides. The tides go up, tides go down. You inhale, you exhale. And the exhales are just as healthy as the inhales. But be aware that when you're topping out in an inhale, probably time to take some money off the table and do some cool things with it.
Yeah, very cool. And so you're saying essentially that in this channel, the longer, Raf's here. Should we let him in?
Absolutely.
Why, hello there. Is he in? I don't know if you guys can hear that thunder over here.
We're right back where we started, because that's where I was at the interview with Rafael last time.
Oh, amazing. Well, sir, are you there, Raf?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, hello. Can say hi to you. Yeah, we're just doing a little interview here. Did you get the AST and EST times mixed up?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Sorry. We started without you. I'm so sorry, man.
It's all good.
Yeah. So we kind of we're going over the charting aspect, which is cool because you guys did that in your interview. And now we're kind of breaking it down here. And I like how you're saying long-term, right? How you're saying the long-term trajectory is better than the short-term. Like you guys are in it for the long haul. So while yes, you might sell some DERO here, are you planning on selling all your DERO there? Or are you guys hoping to ride it even more? I can't even begin to predict the future like this. I can't even conceivably understand how DERO could get to something like that. Cause I never think about that. I like that you present it here like that. What kind of events do you think would be needed for DERO to actually get there?
I think, so when Monero finally had a working GUI that was public, when we talk about mobile wallets, just a GUI, and it had a sudden surge of usage in darknet markets, that's when it did that crazy thing. And I think with DERO will be the same. When there is a full-blown, not alpha or beta GUI in effect, that makes it simple for everyone to actually use it, then there'll be the base that it needs for it to have an event like this. And then the use is going to be, like I said, it could be darknet markets, it could be a new DApp that comes out, it could be NFT market mania. We don't know. It could be, let's say it has an ETH moment. Suddenly everyone with their NFTs because they're getting taxed to hell from OpenSea giving up all their tax information to the tax agencies. Maybe that will create surge in NFT. I don't know what it's going to be. It will be something. And usually what happens is the price is going to do what it's going to do. Okay, it's going to go to the top of the channel no matter what. But what will be the excuse for it to go there? Does price make the news? The news makes the price. And I always come from the price makes the news. It's like the price happens and then the news people look for an excuse as to why the price happened that way. So what's going to cause it to do? I don't know. I can't predict it. What I do know is that if it touches the top of this channel, I will be taking profits in the majority of my holdings and putting them to work. I will have no shame in doing that. I think, profits are meant to be used in real life. And then I will look to, reacquire positions when it all settles down again.
Well, maybe, is this a good time to kind of maybe switch back over and ask Rafael some of the questions that we had planned for him?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Let's do that.
Should I stop sharing the screen?
Sure. Yeah. Either way, whatever you like. Oh, Raf, good to see your face again.
Likewise.
I'm wearing my little thing from the last time I saw you with our interview at Cake Master. Yeah. So we kind of did a little bit of an intro into Mr. A's background. And I wanted to know, like, is there like a pivotal time? You come from an analyst perspective. Like, what even is an analyst? And like, when did you discover that there was such thing as privacy coins? What was that moment like for you?
For me, it was really before crypto, before Bitcoin. I was already working with protocols that gave you privacy by default. So when my friends and I discovered Bitcoin, it was very easy to desire that within Bitcoin itself. And we sought it out, but we quickly realized that Bitcoin is will never give us the privacy that we are used to having. So then the crypto note protocol came out and turned into what is now Monero. And we've been seeing that finally for the first time in history, there's like an economic incentive to drive forward privacy oriented technology, because for the longest time we had these technologies, but there was not an economic driver to motivate people to improve upon them. It was really just based around the free and open source ethos.
Do you guys think that there could be a major turning point? It seems like it, right? And I made this mistake with the whole thing, right? I made this mistake with that. I heard about it from so long ago. I just really didn't think they'd ever come through, like go through with their plan. And I find myself slipping back into this mentality, like, sure, this global credit system and the surveillance is going to happen, but like, really, is it going to, really, are they going to do it? And I can consciously see myself being like, you better prepare. And thankfully I am with DERO. But my subconscious is like, no, girl, you're good. Just enjoy your chickens, So what do you guys think? I'd love to hear from you guys. Do you think there's going to be a major big moment in the world where we have to adopt things like DERO and Monero on like a massive scale?
I honestly don't think that, contrary to what a lot of people say, I don't think that there's going to be a major moment, because people are better off being conditioned slowly into slavery and into accepting tyranny. So for those that want control and power, the last thing that they would want is to jolt people with a little bit too much aggression and making them become aware of their circumstances. So what I think is going to happen is what we have been having. And I think that moment of, hey, you really need privacy already happened a long time ago. I think obviously that there's going to be like economic forces that will definitely wake people up, but I don't think that it is something that is to the benefit of those who want more power to make it more obvious that people are under their control. So I think that this is just something that we're going to have to deal with, in that people are boiling like frogs, like the cliche goes. I don't know if there's going to be that moment for people to actually wake up and start using privacy technology all at once. I don't know if that's going to happen, to be honest.
Yeah. How about you, Mr. A? Do you think it'll be like more of like a gradual adoption, or like outside of the event you spoke about specifically where, some dark net stuff, that they come online with that? Outside of that event, do you think that there would be more of a gradual or like a punctuated?
No, I'm very much actually funny. The Raph brought up the boiling frogs. That's exactly how I see it. It's a slow boiling frog. They keep chipping away at it slowly. Even today, I think the European Parliament just passed the law where every exchange in Europe has to submit all the records to the tax agencies. So again, it's another checkbox, another chip away, another notch in the temperature going up for the frogs.
Yeah,
I think it just keeps happening like that. But eventually, when the boiling point is reached, then there's an explosion and something happens, and then privacy really picks up. But I don't think we're anywhere close to there. I think there's a lot more degrees to go up in the water before it actually hits a boiling point like that. When I say boiling point, I mean something like full blown, like French Revolution, like we're just like tearing everything down and burning everything down and putting those people to the stake and the guillotine and things like that. I don't think we're quite close to that yet. And when we look at privacy technology as well, I think the web itself was HTTP forever, and it took a long time until HTTPS became the standard, even demanded by people. And I think that's the way it is. Well, the HTTPS is the encrypted version of HTTP, which makes the traffic in between you and the web server invisible to surveillance on the web.
Good to know.
So, and I think it's only been over the past, 4 or 5 years that not seeing the little lock next to the website when you're on your browser. A browser actually brings up a warning saying, "Hey, this is actually not secure." That wasn't even the standard thing. People didn't even notice it. It was nice for those that encrypted the website traffic, but people weren't paying attention to that. Now they're paying a lot more attention to it, and it took a long time. It took 25, 30 years of internet for us to get to that point. And crypto is, since 2009, it's still so young, and the demand for it is just not there yet.
Yeah, those are pretty good explanations. And I sure hope not. Like I hope that there's not some really intense event, but at the same time, it would be kind of almost in our benefit, like you said, Rafael, like we would all of a sudden be aware, oh, wow, we're being super majorly enslaved. And then boom, we'd wake up. Raf, for you, like, I know you're a big BSV person, and I know that one of our very first conversations and what impressed me a lot about you is that you had all this wisdom from the experiences of like BSV forming and all that. And you have this wisdom around how to work specifically as decentralized open source. And now that I have you guys both here, you know that I'm really super interested in NFTs. I love like creating art. Like I could just do it all day, every day, because I'm obsessed. And what kinds of things do you guys have in terms of experience from other NFT markets that you've seen that DERO is maybe like not getting yet? Or what are the potentials that you guys see that could happen in DERO's NFT market? What advice would you give a young NFT marketplace like DERO?
I think that people in DERO need to realize that privacy is very important, and we're happy that they're having privacy by default. But unfortunately, as we've stated, the vast majority of people out there right now, like boiling frogs, they really don't care about privacy. So you have to realize that DERO is still competing in other important areas like interoperability, easiness of use, quickness, how fast it is, and how cheap it is. So those are 4 categories that DERO needs to realize that it is competing with all other networks. So putting privacy aside, the question is, how does DERO compete in those fronts? And that's something that people in the DERO community have to keep in mind, that DERO needs to be the best in spite of it being private or not. So how is that going to relate to DERO? Well, DERO has because it is private by default, it has the ability to do things that no one else is capable of doing. So the entrepreneurs coming into DERO really need to capitalize on that, because the market has shown us that the market can easily accommodate to whatever the protocol allows or permits, as long as it is profitable, as we saw with like ordinals on BTC. It doesn't matter if inscribing NFTs on BTC is expensive, as long as you can create a market deliverable that could be sustaining for the entrepreneur. A lot of it is getting the word out there, letting people know, like what we're doing right now, that DERO exists, that DERO is a platform unlike anything else. I was talking to Mr. A about this recently, and the importance of homomorphic encryption, and how we need to champion this new type of encryption, especially in the age of AI, to realize that this is probably one of the only ways that we can actually own our data.
Yeah. Mr. A, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, touching on, the usability, Raf is right. It is competing with all the other networks. And the initial question was, what can we do to make it better, and what to do as a young NFT creator? The first thing is, an NFT creator, you have to understand that we're still very much, in beta phase, even though it's a live net. And there's no wallet that lets the masses do what they do with like Ethereum, Solana. I can download a wallet into my Apple device and have my NFT show up and buy DERO and like transmit, easily. Like you said at the beginning, there's a proof of work and learning that it takes to use DERO because it's so young. When that infrastructure is in place, then DERO will be able to compete and outcompete those networks, because it actually is better technology. It's faster, it's lighter, it's, not even looking at privacy, that's aside. 18-second block times, everything else is superior. And as NFT creators, the best thing you can do right now, and that's my advice, and this is why, I like to get collections out right now, is get your collection out, get it out early, so that when those pieces are in place, your work is out there and ready to be embraced by the next wave of adoption that will come when people can easily put their NFT into their phone and use it as a profile picture. Or, NFTs not just as art, NFTs, all the other things. Raf and I talk about NFTs being endless possibilities of entrepreneurship. And that's what's going to happen with them. So start making the plans now for your business and start implementing them as soon as you can.
Yeah, that's a really good advice. And it's so interesting how we've all landed here at the very beginning of DERO. It's like I felt like an energetic clarion call came out, I guess, through you guys. Really, you guys were like the people who really blasted it, and then those of us that were meant to be were like, "Hi, I showed up here. I heard I was supposed to be here for DERO," right? And so I'm really grateful that I get to be involved with this community because, like I've said before, like, man, I never dreamed of this technology that's literally so challenging, so addicting. My question, actually, if I may, I have a bunch of really good questions that I didn't even get to go through yet. I have a question for Raf. I read your bio. Well, actually, ChatGPT read your bio because I didn't have time to make questions. So I had ChatGPT do it for me. It said that your discovery of Bitcoin was during the Ron Paul campaign. And like, what was, like, you said that you already discovered privacy before that, but then what was the moment for you guys? Because like, I think Mr. A said he found out about DERO through you guys, and like you were already involved with TCV before Mr. A. Is that how it got? Like, you seem like you've been around longer. When did you discover DERO, and what was your initial reaction?
I mean, we are constantly studying different protocols, like nonstop. We're constantly looking at different technology out there. So DERO was in our radar back when it was on testnet. So we were already looking at DERO. We were already studying DERO. It was not. It didn't catch us by surprise. And so we were very subscribers in that if people read what we write on the newsletters, they will be ahead of the game. Know where our mind is at, and they can see into the future what we might favor to add into our portfolio in the future. So that's why it's important to read our research. A lot of people just become part of the Crypto Vigilante just to get the name of the latest pick, but that's not really how, like, if you want to be on top of the game, we're a research group, and we sell our research. You guys can grab our research, digest it, and make it your own. And if you pay attention to what we write over time, you'll be able to see into the future as to where our interests are and what it is that we are focusing on. So DERO was something we paid attention to since it was on testnet. And that goes for everything else that's happening in crypto that we're studying. I'm sorry, what was the rest of your question? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Okay.
When DERO came on your radar, and what was your initial thoughts about it? Maybe you could speak to that. Like, what was your initial impression of it? And what is that impression of it now, watching the evolution of DERO?
So when we first started looking into it and studying it, it was in testnet. So it was something that we were keeping an eye on, and we saw it as a giant feat. And when we started interacting, slowly getting to know DERO from within and see what the technology was about. One thing that really caught my attention personally was the attitude and the seriousness of those involved in the project. And whenever they would write something on the internet, there was a lot of seriousness behind it. It's almost like it was not a joke to them, it was not. There was a lot of forethought behind everything that they did. And one thing that caught my attention was how it's almost as if the guys at the DERO community itself has been working on this for such a long time that they get annoyed by people coming in asking very elementary questions about things that they've been working on for over 5 years. And so for me, it was very, since I'd been following them since testnet, I understood that. Like, psychologically understood where they were. I'm like, okay, well, they're just annoyed. A lot of people that come into DERO tend to say that the DERO devs and the contributors tend to be very short in their answers and the way that they describe things. But again, one thing that I like to focus on is like, look, guys, this is technology that's been worked on for years. And so if you really want to understand it, you got to look at it from within. And so where is it at now? I think that DERO is in a mature state, although it is very new. It's been like no more than a year since its launch on its actual mainnet. And in spite of it being so new, it's still very much a veteran, and it has a veteran-like vibe within its culture because it's been worked on for over 4 or 5 years now. It was on testnet for 4 years. So it has a very mature ecosystem, even though it is a very new cryptocurrency. And I think that really sets DERO aside from every other new protocol that is just coming out, because there is that, like I said, that seriousness about it, and because it was on testnet for that long. And so where is it at now? Well, I think, from my conversations with Mr. A, I've begun to see how the chart reflects how mature DERO is and how it's growing in a very mature way. There's no sudden leaps and bounds of price discovery, but rather the DERO chart kind of reflects that sober attitude about the network itself. And so it's for that reason that I think that DERO is a very solid project. And I think I answered your question, right?
Yeah, thank you. That was an excellent answer. Yeah, it is interesting. I've been since, I think my DEROversary was, which I think Mr. A made that name up for me, DEROversary. It was April 13th or something like that. And I had just come like 2 months after the launch on mainnet for Stargate. That was like February, the last week of February, maybe close to my birthday, actually, my real birthday. I've been able to watch it, but I'm so new to crypto in general. I don't understand it like you guys do, right? You have this whole other perspective. And I think that we're kind of getting close to our time here. The rain is certainly picking up here. I also want to say my gratitude to you guys both for your role in that. I know that some people in not just the DERO community, but like they get obsessed with your work and your channel, and they trust you guys so much. And every so often a call doesn't go exactly the way they want it to go. And Mr. A and I have talked about that. Like there's external world things that affect the charts and whatnot that are out of your control. Is there a message for those people that are on edge and uneasy, in particular around the calls and stuff? I really like how you said, it's not about the calls or the picks. It's more about the research and using that research to think for yourself. Is there some kind of message that you guys would like to give, particularly the DERO community, in terms of like the longevity of your intentions towards DERO and whatnot, like something that can kind of smooth that over?
Well, you just said it. I think you just answered it, right? We are researchers, people that love these technologies. And if DERO were ever to mess up, we would be the first ones to call it out. We have been, like, for example, for Pirate Chain, people loved us at Pirate Chain. And then when I said, okay, there's a lot of money in this ecosystem, you guys should maybe start pulling money and start doing audits of the code and the implementation of ZK snarks in Pirate Chain. Some people didn't like that. So we understand that being an objective analyst comes both with, like, we're unaffected by it at this point. We really don't care what people think, because we are doing our job. And our job is to offer our objective research and to strive to be as objective as possible, even if that means sometimes like hurting our own bags, because, like I wish I could just say things here that would benefit me, but in reality, I can't. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't. There's just no way. I have to be objective. I have to be sober. I have to take my medicine. So I wish Mr. A would say things that are a lot more bullish, but he's doing his job. You see what I'm saying? And I need to take my medicine. And he's like, for example, Mr. A, when I came into his chat, he was giving you a very sober perspective as to, like, this is where I think DERO is going to be going. And this is about the place where someone should take gains, right? Take profits. He's giving you an objective perspective as an analyst. And if he were to give you anything else than that, he would be like not being honest with you. Now, there's a difference between technical analysis, fundamental analysis, and operational security. And then all of that, there's a difference between that and something like marketing, right? So people need to take into account that, for example, what Jeff Berwick does, his emphasis is more marketing, right? And even Jeff, within his own marketing and when he talks to people, he's always acquiescing back to us. He's always pointing back to, listen to the guys, listen to the analyst. So it's important to realize that there's nothing that we can do that will make everybody happy. and we're okay with that. And it's almost like, you know, some people are going to love you, some people are going to hate you. The same people that love you now are going to hate you later. And so we're beyond that. We're over that. We're that none of that affects us, you know, anymore, because our job is to really take care of our subscribers. It's not to champion one network over another. When we talk about DERO, it comes from a very sincere place. When we talk about Pirate Chain, it comes from a very sincere place. You know, sometimes we have to be the bearer of bad news, and people within the networks that we previously championed may not like what we have to say. So what we offer again is research. People are to take that research and make it their own. So if they're mad at us for anything, if they're ever upset at us, in reality, they're really upset at themselves. In reality, that's really what's happening. They're really upset at themselves because they didn't, whether they agreed with us or they did not agree with us in our research, they still had the responsibility to read our research, digest it, and make it their own. So at the end of the day, all the information that we provide is open source on the internet. We're providing an analysis of everything that is already out in the open. So no one has to be a member of the Crypto Vigilante to come to their own conclusions. But the reason why they're here is because we are experienced people in these topics and we understand these topics. So they come here to get an expert opinion. Now, what they do with that opinion, it's up to them. And so it's almost like, Kalina, what I've noticed is that within our subscribers, they've become more and more knowledgeable over time and more mature. So we really don't have this anymore. Whenever we have people that complain, they're usually people that, like Jeff Berwick and I put out a message like, hey, we're putting out brand new research on what we think is like the most important aspect of crypto right now. So people will rush into the Crypto Vigilante thinking that just by, without them having to do any personal work, that just by like buying a coin the moment something comes out on that topic of conversation, that they're going to make a lot of money. And that's just not how this works. You know, I wish life was that simple. It's not that simple. In reality, you have to really grow with the market. You have to really grow as a person, because the market really reflects who you are as a person. That's really what it does. And it's very humbling, even for me. I've learned a lot of lessons in the past, and I'm still learning a lot of lessons. I think one of the best things you can have coming into a crypto or anything, a market like crypto, is to come with a lot of humility. And that humility is only real if you're responsible, if you come with responsibility and you take ownership of what it is that you're doing. And when you stop blaming other people and you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, you know what, I'm going to do this. And a lot of the things that I've noticed in my life, and I think that this is something that other people go through as well, is that they are so caught up in so much noise from the internet and from so many people that they lose agency, because they're used to getting everything, you know, immediately gratified. So they think that by becoming part of a network that they're gonna have to not be part of that hard decision-making process. And so since they're not used to, you know, working out that muscle of personal responsibility, when the time comes to make a difficult decision in your financial life, whether it be to buy in at a certain price or not allow your emotions to get ahead of you and FOMO into something, it's very easy for anxiety to kick in and for people's emotions not to be strong for when that time comes. And the best people that I've seen when it comes to day trading and trading are not necessarily even the most seasoned or experienced of people. It's really the people that are very centered, the people that meditate, the people that pray, the people that are connected to source, the people that are at peace with themselves, and that have the peace of mind to come in and do things with clarity. So everyone is making educated decisions, and no one is making them for them. So it's important to know that this is a learning process, and you really have to be, I think you have to be very generous and humble and very kind to yourself, because a lot of people are not kind to themselves. They're very hard on themselves, especially when they make financial mistakes. And what we've seen, like you've mentioned, people that are upset at us, they're really not upset at us. They're upset at themselves, and it really shows like a lack of maturity on their part, because they don't do something that they should, and so they immediately seek to hold someone else responsible because it's maybe too hard, too difficult to see within themselves and to accept that they are the reason that they fucked up. Like, you have no idea. I'm telling you, I'm speaking to you from experience, right? Because from experience, I've everything that I just told you. I'm telling you my process of growth. I've been there. I know what it is like to be human in these situations. I know what it is like to make a mistake. I know what it is like not to do what I could have done. And I know what it is like to go through that thought process where the knee-jerk reaction is not to take responsibility and to blame others. So yeah, it's we've seen this plenty of times, and it's probably going to happen again, where people don't even read our material, and they're going to be seeking someone to blame for their own choices, and that's okay. At this point, it really doesn't bother us. Honestly, I think I'm betting on that the stupidity of people will come out again. Every market cycle, we will see a group of people come in, and they will make their own decisions and seek to blame someone else but themselves. And then we will see another group of people that will learn from their mistakes and actually thank us. And that's interesting to me, is that, like, I've had encounters with subscribers that have made major mistakes, but they still thank us, and they still send us letters telling us, guys, you guys no idea how much I've learned from you guys, and like letters and like in person, like, thank you so much for everything that you've done for me and for my family. I don't know where I'd be without you guys. Like, thank you so much. And they are people that have probably made the same exact mistakes as the next person, who psychologically gives their whole experience a completely different meaning, and takes a completely different approach, like even death threats. We've gotten those as well. Yeah, people are that crazy. So it just goes to show how humanity is, and it's not something that we can stop. It's almost like it's something to be at peace with at this point. Like, I am not bothered at all by those things anymore, to be completely honest.
That's amazing growth. I'm not quite there yet, but I strive to be. Before we talk about that, Mr. A, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, I've been good since the beginning, and I have made those mistakes. I have bought tops and sold bottoms. I know what it feels like. Not blaming anyone for it. In fact, like, that only inspired me to work harder to make up the mess that I created myself. As far as how our calls go, how everything's going, I analyze the charts as see fit. I give my opinion, which is, my crystal ball is not always right. Because of that is why we have something called risk management. So when I tell people to risk manage accordingly, my hope is they follow advice. Don't go all in on the brand new release that just came out 2 hours ago and it's got massive attention. There is not a time to do that, but not everyone always listens. We do give advice on, how to allocate portfolio amounts for different things. And brand new things that, are super high risk get low allocations in the single-digit percentages, and some people choose to, go all in on something of those things, and they don't work out, and they get upset. But that's not on us. It was their choice to go all in and gamble. It's at a point where it's investing anymore. It's gambling. And if you want to gamble, you can also do informed gambling, which can be very profitable. But if you just do degenerate gambling, which is going all in on something with no information, then you're not going to get much out of it. And when we're talking about informed gambling, I think the altcoin market itself is a form of gambling by itself. I think in an altcoin season, everything goes up. Okay, everyone was a genius, everyone was making profits and everything. But, the way to play an altcoin market is like, from an informed perspective, is to use super low amounts. And if you want to gamble on it, they're going to call it exactly as gambling. Pick 20, 30 things, put small amounts into each one, let them ride, and one of them is probably going to go absolutely crazy. You can take your profits to the top and make up for any other losses and walk away from it. That's informed gambling. It's kind of having a roulette table with a whole bunch of squares, and you put a little bit on every square. If one of those squares hits, then you win, and then all your losses are covered. So that's the smart altcoin gambling. But going all in on one where it could go, the wrong way at any time is not the way to do it. So that's why risk management is so important. That's something that I think I am constantly reminding subscribers to do, is to risk manage and take the research, take the charts, take the analysis I provide all the time and follow it, because I do it in an educational form. No one's going to watch 2 videos and become a super trader. But if they follow, the videos that, Mr. Devo and I do over, a year, 2 years, and they understand the process and become aware of that process, they're going to become great traders too. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's a learning process, and that is up to everyone to do it on their own. And by doing so and taking that responsibility, they'll have no one to blame, and they'll be actually very happy with themselves. And then they'll become a subscriber, like Raf said, that thanks us. Hey, thanks for doing this. It really helped my family and everything else. Not the blamers who went all in on their brand new pick that got sold into, because that's what happens when things go vertical, to get sold into.
Yeah, excellent response on both of you guys. Like, I'm an energetically sensitive person, and I feel that I feel the integrity from your responses, and it soothes my soul because I can feel the waves. Like, people that listen to this, I think they're going to be able to also feel that resonance. And I think in turn, our DERO community is going to feel a lot more cohesive. And not that there's a lot of people in DERO that are angry, right? Like, I mean, I don't know very many, but yeah, so I'm really grateful that you guys shared that from the heart, and it feels good. So with that out of the way, do you guys, okay, so we know Mr. A has NFT projects. I'm wondering, Raf, do you have visions for maybe a project, NFT or otherwise? Yeah. What you got cooking up your sleeve? Are you just strictly for the investment? And then what do you got?
Well, I personally try to stay away from NFTs because I like my DERO too much and I don't want to spend it on NFTs. So yeah, I try not to look at them because I know I would be motivated to buy them. And so I try to stay away from them as much as possible. But I have some ideas. I haven't executed on them yet, but I have some ideas. They're ideas and right now. So I'm just kind of laying low on them. But you'll know if I put something out, I'll let you know.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I'm excited about potential projects and ideas, and all the capabilities of DERO is so untapped. And I myself have a couple projects that are off the books, not me, but are me, but they're not ready yet, but they will be one day, hopefully, if I ever am successful with them. How about you, Mr. A? Do you have ideas for like applications or things like that? Like, other than NFTs, what are you passionate about? Or do you have any ideas about what you might bring?
Well, there are 2 of them I'm working on, and neither of them can be brought to the public yet. And I think known as me in the background. It's there, and it will probably help everyone, I hope. I don't know. And as far as the other one goes, I think later this year, I'll come out with that. NFTs are there's not just pictures. They're a whole thing in of their own. And right now, the art is great. I love art. I love doing art. I love making art. I absolutely appreciate the support that I get from my art, which has been mind-blowing, especially graphics, because I wasn't really a graphic designer by any means. I really got deep into it with the 18 collection. That was the thing that really got me started with Illustrator and vectors and things like that. Music's always been my thing, and I haven't done any music NFTs yet. So there's a hint.
Yeah. And that the G45's platform has the capacity for music, right? Because there's one on there. And mine, I think you guys know I'm doing a guided meditations, kind of like visualizations to basically like make yourself super smart while you sleep. And I want to do it as an NFA. And it's like a whole experiment to discover how I'm going to actually do that as an NFA without the comfort of G45, right? But it's a cool learning experience for me, and I'm pretty stoked on all of the potential of all of it, really. So I think we're going to come to a close here, unless you guys have anything else you want to share before we kind of wrap it up.
The only thing I have to share really, it's a couple things. One is keep studying and keep learning, because that's what needs to happen. And the second is be patient, and don't cheer for DERO to explode tomorrow. Cheer for DERO to explode 2 years from now, and everyone else will benefit more from that, and the growth will be much more sustainable, and it will prevent it from collapsing really hard in the long term, and maintain this train that's been in for 5 years now, and that's what we want. So yeah, keep learning and be patient. Those are my messages.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because that's something that I was thinking about myself. The fact that rapid growth for a young network could hurt it in its early days. So I like what you just said about, cheer for it to really blow up like 2 years from now. And yeah, I think you're right, man. Patience is really where, what's most beneficial to everyone, because it takes time to for these noble endeavors to really mature.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, I think quick, fast money, real crypto, is basically slow, massive money. It's even bigger than that. But it requires patience. There's no like deep jam betting on, the latest meme coin from last week with Frog, where you put in $100 and then you got a few million out. It's impossible to predict that. But with something like DERO, you can get massive gains by being intelligent and patient and just taking your time, letting time do the heavy lifting for you instead of trying to rush into some degenerate gambling with your money. Just be patient with it and let it grow.
I heard somebody actually in the DERO community tell me once that it's more likely if you get rich really quick, then typically it's not going to be very moral or sustainable, but the long term. He said there was like 4 categories of it. It was secret, by the way. I can't remember what he said, but it was so eloquent. And it reminds me that, yeah, we really do want that long term, like that slow burn. There's so many, like the delayed gratification is really important. So I am super grateful that we finally got to make this happen, you guys. I know it's been a long time coming, and I'm grateful that we could do this from the heart and like authentically. And of course, there's like so many more things that we could touch on where I could be more organized with a better script. But I'm grateful that we were able to do this. And it's so good to see your faces again. Well, your face, Mr. A, is still lovely. The blue face. I've been enjoying looking at it. So yeah, thank you guys again. And is there if people don't know about your work, I'm going to link it obviously in the bottom, but where can people go to find more of your work if they're not aware of the Crypto Vigilante?
So you can visit us at cryptovigilante.io. And our job is to discover things that are largely undiscovered in the world of crypto. And we teach fundamental analysis, which is what is it that we're talking about? What are these protocols, and what are the most promising protocols of the future? The technical analysis, and that is what Mr. A and W focus on, which is the what and when to interact with these markets. And then there's operational security, where we teach about how to actually use these technologies properly. And so that's cryptovigilante.io. You can follow us on Twitter at Vigilante Crypto, and on YouTube at Crypto Vigilante.
Awesome. And just a note to my specific community outside of DERO, these guys are in alignment with our morals and philosophies regarding the things that we can't say that are censored that will get my YouTube channel taken off. So they're very much on the same level and wavelength as us. So definitely check them out and feel free to be your entire pure self. Wink, wink. All right. Well, in that case, then, thank you guys so much again for being here with me today. And let's do this again sometime soon.
Thank you, Kalina. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having me too. It's been long coming. It's been a total pleasure.
For sure. For sure.